Good afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome to a special edition of Bayou Bets for Monday, November 7th. Jim Derry and I are live at the Caesars Superdome for the Ravens-Saints game. Jim is giving you a nausea-inducing view of the Superdome. There it is. We are way up here in the press box, about 3 hours before kickoff. So it's an exciting weekend for Louisiana football fans. Like, let's be honest here. This is just the last step of what's been a pretty amazing weekend. So we'll start there, guys. I do want to remind everybody that we are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook here on Bayou Bets. You can go to NOLA.com/Caesars and get your first bet risk-free up to $1,250. Or if you prefer LSU championship posters, and I believe they're adding the one from Sunday morning's front page for the victory over Alabama, you can go to LSUposter.com and get that deal instead, where if you sign up, make a $10 bet on Caesars Sportsbook, you get to pick out 3 LSU championship posters for free. So Zoe's here with us. She's our producer. Spencer the Guru and Jim and I are at the Dome. And, we'll start with Ravens Saints. We'll get to LSU-Alabama. We'll even talk a little college basketball, which starts tonight. It's a jam-packed show. But, we're here, Jim, so let's start Ravens Saints.
Well, it's an interesting one. It's one, frankly, it's as close to must-win as you can get. This number's been creeping down all week long. It started at 3. It was 2.5 for most of the week. It was 2 yesterday, and now it's 1.5. Late last night, I went to 1.5. So the sharps like the Saints. We'll get into our predictions, I guess, a little later on. But the Saints need to find a way, even though the Ravens have a bunch of injuries. The Saints have some too at key spots, and they need to find a way to stop Lamar Jackson. They have not been able to stop running quarterbacks very well the last year and a half or so.
Spencer, the line is 1.5 here, as we showed. Jerry is here. He says, "Go Saints."
Jerry.
It is game night. Your take on this one? I know you said earlier in the week you liked the Ravens. Sounds like maybe you're not totally confident in that pick. I'm not sure any of us know exactly what to expect tonight.
Right. Yeah, I was feeling the Ravens a lot. And then with all the sharp money coming in on the Saints, I'm like, oh, man, I might have to back the truck up a little bit. So I ended up pivoting for best bets to the over, because I feel like that even with the injuries that both offenses should do pretty well, because like Jim said, the Saints struggle against mobile quarterbacks. So I don't think Lamar Jackson will have trouble scoring with the Ravens. And the Saints, man, their offense has really been trending up. That's why I'm not counting them out, because Andy Dalton, he's always struggled in prime time, but he's really seemed to have turned a corner lately, and thinking that with Olave and those guys, Kamara's been really turning up to where I think the Saints will be able to keep up if this ends up a shootout. And, we know the weather's going to be good inside the Dome. Don't ever have to worry about that in NOLA. So it should be interesting. I'll save my prediction for later, but it is going to be tight.
I just got to respond to Uncle Big Nick here that Spencer never gets. Spencer's been like 4 Saints home games in a row. All right, we just haven't.
Yeah, I've been going to the
mornings.
Yeah, I've been going.
He asked not to come tonight, so Jim and I just spent my time at a bunch of traffic around the airport. Zoe is joining us from home as well. Zoe, you haven't been here for the whole season. This is your first Saints season, et cetera, et cetera. So a little bit of an outsider perspective. But what's your take on tonight's game?
I think with the previous game and the Saints getting a shutout over the Raiders, I think the offense is going to do really well. And as long as Andy Dalton uses his assets of Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill, especially for the running game, I believe the Saints are going to do well. And I think they're going to win. And I said that on Thursday. However, it's Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and he's a great mobile quarterback. However, who knows what could happen with the Saints being on such an upward trajectory that they're on.
Who knows indeed. It's going to be difficult to figure that out. By the way, they were playing a couple of the videos just to test them here a few minutes ago. So if you hear some noise, that's what they're doing. But they're honoring the Dome Patrol tonight. And you talk about some guys who would be a good matchup for Lamar Jackson, Jim. That would be fun to watch Sam Mills try to track down Lamar.
See, I'm actually old enough to remember watching the Dome Patrol. So in this building many times, and there was never a group of linebackers, in my opinion, not a core like that. And according to the scoreboard, the Saints are winning 14-7 already, so that bodes well. The Sharps must have knew that they were going to spot them 7 points early on in the early going. It's going to be a fun night. Look, this is going to be a raucous crowd, and that's one reason why I'm not touching the game. Not just because the Sharps like the Saints. And frankly, the Sharps haven't been on the Saints much this year at all. So the fact that they're on them in this game is sort of weird to me. But I don't want to touch this game. And the fact that this dome's going to be raucous and crazy, and there's going to be a lot of lit fans by 7:15. So it should be a lot of fun for the people that are in the dome and not working.
Yeah. Our fantasy guy wants to know who scored the touchdowns. It's 14-7 already. It was Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill. Go ahead and put them in your lineups, Nick.
And Devin Duvernay.
Yeah, Devin Duvernay for Baltimore.
Actually, I think Andy Dalton ran two touchdowns in. One of them from 70 yards out. How about that?
Wow.
All right, well, Saints game is starting in about 3 hours. They're playing the Sam Mills video game behind us. That's the noise you hear. But we do want to circle back and talk about the big game Saturday at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge. 32-31, a unique score, will go down in history for LSU. The 2-point conversion in overtime for the Tigers. They said today, the LSU Geology School said that the earth shook. It was another earthquake game. Twice, actually. The touchdown by Jaden Daniels, then the 2-point conversion to Mason Taylor to give LSU the win, actually measured on the Richter scale. Spencer, I'm going to let you start because you're the one who actually at least like LSU with the points. But what was your level of surprise that the Tigers actually pulled this thing out?
Yeah, I was fairly surprised that they were able to pull it off in overtime. The thing that most surprised me was the going for two. I was like, wow, there's no way Kelly's going to really go for this. And he did, and they got it. I was like, oh, my God. Like, it was just one of those moments that's going to go down in history for sure. Being his first year there and really making his mark. I mean, that's the measuring stick for an LSU football coach is can you beat Alabama? And he already did it in year one with an extremely gutsy call. So you got to tip your hat. Him and Jaden Daniels, they were doubted early on, but shouldn't be any more doubt now. I mean, they're trying to make a push for the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's still a bit of a long shot, but we'll show later. I mean, the Saints and LSU are actually both, here we are into November, and have a pretty good chance at competing for some championships here. Zoe, again, I know you're new in Louisiana. I guess you think LSU beats Alabama all the time.
Absolutely. No, my grandfather, God rest his soul, born and raised in Tuscaloosa, so I grew up here and Roll Tide all the time. But I thought the game going into overtime, and I thought going for the 2-point conversion was a smart idea, and it right here. And I think at the end of the day, it shows that Brian Kelly believes in his team and he trusts them to do the job at the end of the day. It's not that common, I feel like, to do that and to go for the 2-point conversion because you just want to, kick the extra point, just take the points and just let the game go and go. But when you have faith in your offense like that and how much the team has grown over the course of the season, why not go for the 2? And thankfully it paid off. And I don't think we'll see Alabama in the college football playoffs this year for the first time in I don't know how many years. It was a great call.
Yeah, that's a good question, Zoe. I forgot when's the last time they didn't make it because it seemed like even last year, even though Georgia had won it all and had gone undefeated, I mean, they put 2 SEC teams in where Bama still got in. So that's a good exercise. I'll have to find that out.
Jim, Zach, do you know off the top of your head?
I think Zach's looking that up right now. It seems like it was 3 or 4 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. But there aren't many. There aren't that many.
Oh, yeah, it was the year LSU won it all.
Right.
Yeah, that's 2019. Okay.
And so there aren't many years, though, with Alabama not in there. And all the years they've done it, I think there's only 2. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I will say this about the 2-point conversion. And Doug and I talked about this on Datitude this morning. I take absolutely nothing away from Brian Kelly, and I'm not saying this just to be in the center, but I think it was a no-brainer. I think Zach and I would talk about it via text during the game. I think that LSU defense was so gassed. I think there's no way they could have played 8 more overtimes and they would have stopped Alabama from scoring. So I love that Brian Kelly's getting credit because a lot of things he should get credit for that maybe he's not getting credit for. But that to me, Zach, was a no-brainer. And I'm glad that they did. Whether they win the game or lose the game, like he said in his press conference, if you would have told me I had a chance to beat Alabama with one final play, I'm going to take that 100 times out of 100. And it was the right call. Again, if they don't make it, it was still the right call. He would have taken a lot of heat had they not gotten it. But they had to do that. They couldn't go out there and keep playing overtimes and hope at some point you're going to get what's going to happen the next touchdown. They're going to get a 2-point conversion or try for it because you have to after that. And so he took when he knew he could win the game right there. It was a brilliant play, and I'm just glad to see there's some excellent coaching at LSU again because it's been a while.
Yeah, Uncle Big Nick made the comment, is this the first time since Saban that LSU had a coaching advantage over most teams? Absolutely. I mean, there were some times under Les Miles that they had that quirky factor where you weren't sure what the hell was going to happen and maybe it would work out for you, but I wouldn't say they had an advantage. And Ed Ogeron would get the kids fired up, but X's and O's, I mean, like, let's face it, not his thing. So Brian Kelly, yeah, but I agree with Jim. I think it was a no-brainer. I actually don't think he would have caught a lot of heat had they not gotten it. And so I think that's why it's a no-brainer. At that point, you have nothing to lose. Go for it. You played toe-to-toe with Alabama. You showed everybody you can. Now they won the game. And now the pressure comes back a little bit because now LSU has a chance to go win the SEC West. In fact, they can clinch the SEC West as early as next weekend if LSU beats Arkansas. They're 3-point favorites in Fayetteville. And it's going to be cold, by the way, and this is a letdown spot. That's not an easy game. And then if Alabama also beats Ole Miss. So now LSU fans rooting for Alabama this weekend. You get those two results, LSU's in the championship game almost certainly against Georgia, guys.
Yeah.
I will say this, Zach, you don't think you would have caught any flack. I guess you haven't spent a lot of time on social media and how unrealistic LSU fans can be. It's funny because the Brian Kelly and Jaden Daniels haters have kind of dove in a hole and they must have covered themselves there. Because Jaden Daniels has been outstanding in the progression that he's made from Florida State game to now. It's been absolutely incredible. And this was supposed to be a rebuilding year. And what Brian Kelly's done with this team, I've said it 50 times, is absolutely incredible. If you would have told me that LSU would be number 7 at any point in the season, I would have told you were absolutely insane. You probably ought to be feeding the pigeons on Saturday.
Man. Yeah, this is kind of a tricky spot, I feel. And don't jinx them, UBN, because I think it could be a tricky spot. Going on the road there. If it's if it's kind of chilly. I mean, but Arkansas though, man, I think they're just kind of going into a tailspin. I mean, they just lost to Liberty. That was a bad loss. Not that. I mean, Liberty's not terrible, but I mean, they shouldn't be beating an SEC team like this, other than Vanderbilt. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like LSU should pull it off. Might be kind of an ugly one though.
Maybe, but as an athlete, we're trained to work with the uncontrollables, which includes weather. So I don't want to hear anyone complain about how cold it is. It's November, it's football, deal with it. And I'm actually surprised that LSU is favored by so little. I figured it would at least be maybe 7 points, maybe 10, but 3, really? And like Spencer said, how do you lose to Liberty?
One thing I loved about the whole thing was the fact that in his post-game interview on the field from ESPN, 45 seconds after he won the game, he's already talking about we're going to take a day to celebrate this, but we can't lose sight of the fact that we got to play Arkansas next week. So I don't think Brian Kelly's going to allow this team to have a letdown. I mean, sure, I don't think they're going to play to the level they played this past Saturday night, but I mean, you got to think that this team's going to be ready because the coach is going to have them ready. Now, going back, there were times I think LSU had some big games back in the Saban days where they followed up a big win with a stinker. So it's natural. It's human. They're human. So the line does surprise me a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, it means that there would be 7, 8, 9 points favorite at Tiger Stadium. So it's probably close to about what it should be. I probably would have made it 4 or 5, but I agree with Spencer that Arkansas is in the tailspin. LSU has no business losing to Arkansas. So if this is a real team, and not just a team. I mean, great if they find a way to make the SEC championship, that's wonderful. But in the progression of this team, to me, learn from last week and continue to learn, and you've got to win this game.
I mean, I think LSU's in for a dogfight. I haven't officially made a pick yet, but I don't think 3 is off base. I think this game comes down to the wire. Arkansas, sure, I know losing to Liberty, but how many times do we say, how did the same team that did this one week do this the next week? I mean, it happens all the time in football, especially in college football. And so, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the case. I will say I'll be almost as impressed by LSU if they can take care of business in this game as I was on Saturday night, because it is a classic letdown spot. But here's what's at stake. I mean, you look at these odds at Caesars right now. LSU's only 4-1 to win the conference title. Early, Georgia and LSU are the favorites to meet in Atlanta in 4 weeks. Georgia just needs one more win to clinch the East Division title over Tennessee. And LSU, as I said, kind of a magic number of 2 between their wins and Ole Miss losses. And honestly, a lot of crazy stuff would have to happen for Alabama to get back into it. They would have to win out, and I think have LSU lose out at this point. So Alabama almost out of it. By the way, I did look it up. The last time and the only time in the history of the college football playoff, which this is the 8th year, that Alabama was not in the Final Four was 2019 when LSU won the title. It was LSU, Oklahoma, Clemson, and Ohio State. So maybe that's a good sign for LSU. The only time Alabama didn't make it, LSU did. So that's what's going on in the SEC. I did mention, as we continue here on Bayou Bets Live from the Caesars Superdome, counting down to Ravens and Saints, I did mention that it's not just LSU. It's a championship type weekend for Louisiana, because the Saints, as we'll see in a minute, are in the NFC South race. LSU's in the SEC race, in fact, in charge of the SEC West. And then Tulane is in control of its destiny in the American race, guys. And again, you talk about letdown spots. They've got some big games coming up. They went up to Tulsa in the cold against a tough defensive team and just sort of methodically took care of business.
Yeah, that's one where the under. I was on the under. I wish I'd have played it because I felt the under was definitely going to hit there. But yeah, roll wave, baby. I'm surprised how well they did. I mean, I know Tulsa's not a great team, but going there, I thought it may have been. I mean, it wasn't a super high scoring game, but I thought it may have been a trap game for the Wave, because I mean they did have that trap game against Southern Miss, but I mean the way they're playing, I think they could take down UCF this Saturday. I know UCF's been playing really good as well. It might probably be whoever wins that'll win the American, if I had to guess. But, the Wave favored by 2 be at Yeoman, so it should be an interesting one. But I think they'll keep it going. They've got a great defense, and their offense has done enough to win.
And Zach, I will tell you that a lot of my Tulane friends thought this was a trap. I hate people say there's no such thing as a trap game. Absolutely, there's a such thing as a trap game. And a lot of my Tulane friends say, look, we're coming off a bye after a big win, heads in the clouds. They were really worried that they were going to go to Tulsa and have a letdown. And it was never really in doubt. I mean, I think this team really believes in themselves now. They are playing really good football. Defense is outstanding. Tajay Spears, from Ponchatoula. That dude's an NFL running back if I ever saw one.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the winner of this being in the driver's seat, at least, Spencer. Cincinnati also only has 1 loss like UCF, and so Tulane has to go on the road to face Cincinnati to end the season. So they're involved in this as well. But, hey, we're into November, and people always talk about what you do in November is what people remember. Listen, all 3 Louisiana teams and the Saints, it's funny that the Saints are the ones everybody thought was going to be good this year, and they're the ones maybe not holding up their end of the bargain. But look, this is a big game tonight. The Bucs pulled that game out yesterday, guys. I don't see how they're minus 210 to win this division, even with the Falcons. And if the Saints win tonight, it'll be a 3-way tie atop the NFC South.
If you like the Saints tonight, you need to go bet right now. You need to go bet on the Saints because that number is going to change drastically. This number, it was 600 last week. It's only moved to 550. It tells me that Vegas doesn't think the Saints are going to win tonight. But if you do, if you're confident about the Saints winning tonight, you need to forget about the spread. You need to go put some money on that future at 550 because I think if the Saints win this game tonight, they are they have put themselves in prime position to win this division. And I think that beyond that, I would make them the favorite to win the division if they win this game tonight. I do think they're going to win at Pittsburgh. I do think they're going to win against the Rams, who are just awful. The Rams are above the boat in a bad way right now. I know that, people are. I just found it hilarious that this morning we got one last chance to talk about Tom Brady, and it was like the lead of all the morning shows. I mean, who cares? Both of those teams are garbage. I mean, they were both. It's like neither one of them wanted to win, and yeah, Brady's arm looked like a noodle arm. They can't run the football, so I think the Saints win tonight, and they're in prime position. They ought to be at least even money to win this division. So put money on it now, because that number is going to drop to probably plus 200 if the Saints win tonight.
That Rams prevent defense was so bad that Malik Willis could have driven for the tying touchdown or winning touchdown.
Oh, you're going too far, man.
Well, Malik Willis would actually have to throw the ball, which he doesn't seem to like to do. But I've never seen anything like it, Spencer. I mean, it was like, and we can bring up the NFL results when we talk about this here. That there were 4 20-17 games. No, there were 5 20-17 games yesterday. It was the damnedest thing, and that was one of them. The Bucs drive down to score the winning touchdown with 9 seconds left, and Twitter's going crazy about vintage Tom Brady, and here comes the GOAT, and this is some sort of turnaround point for Tampa Bay, and maybe it is, but none of those throws were difficult at all. He went to his first read every single time, except for maybe on the goal line. Every single one of the guys is wide open. The Rams are playing prevent all the way inside the 10-yard line. Like, I did not understand that at all.
Yeah, it just seems like they get intimidated by Brady. It's like, oh, just because it's Brady, it's like they play this like whack prevent defense that it's like, what are you doing? It's like they just throw away their whole playbook preparation, do this like, and of course he's gonna pick it apart. I mean, they feel like they just panicked, and then they got the PI near the goal line. That was kind of a questionable call with Mike Evans, which I'm not saying that would have made a difference, but it may have slightly, because if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't have gotten it as close. So I do think it's a turning point for them, though, because if they'd have lost that one, like Green Bay, stick a fork in them, they're done. I'd have probably said that about the Bucs, but now that they won this, looks like they still got a shot. And unless the Saints win tonight, then, which I think there's a chance they do, but if the Saints don't win tonight, then the Bucs they're the clear front runner.
I got a question for you. We like to talk about scorigami, and scorigami, for those of you who don't know, is the first time in NFL. It's actually happened a couple times this year. We've had a couple scores.
Love scorigami.
They've never happened in the NFL history. Does scorigami have one? Has it ever happened for 4 NFL games with a 20-17 score? You should have that kind of stuff there. 4 out of 12.
Yeah, already many games this week. It's unbelievable.
4 out of 11 that were played on Sunday had a 20-17 score. That seems almost impossible.
Yep, pretty wild.
Yeah, I don't know that it's there's another word for it besides scorigami. But wait, was it 4 or 5? Weren't there?
Wasn't it 5? Yeah, Chargers, Falcons, Vikings, Commanders.
Yeah, there you go.
Bucks, Rams, Jets, Bills, Chiefs, Titans. So 5 of them, 11 or 12 games. I think 11 games, because Thursday was Thursday. So yeah, out of the Sunday games, like almost half the slate was 20-17.
So that's insane. I don't know that it's a turning point for the Bucs. Maybe it is. We'll see. I do like them a lot against Seattle next week. We can talk about that. That game's in Munich, and I think Seattle has been skating by. They haven't really played anybody good, right? They've been winning games. I mean, unless you count the Giants.
They're not going to play anybody good this week.
But the other part of this is, the Bucs are coming from Tampa Bay. Seattle's coming from Arizona. They've already been on the road, and now they got to fly all the way to Germany. Like, to me, that's worth a couple points on that line. That's a bad spot for Seattle. But we'll see. I mean, I do think the Bucs could make a run. I don't think the Bucs are going to crater like the Packers have.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see. I did want to look at some of the Saturday results as well, guys. The big one, of course, the third one down there, Georgia suffocating Tennessee. Tennessee scored a field goal to open the scoring in that game, and then Georgia they scored 3 more points until the last drive of the game. So, they made it clear who the big dog in the SEC still is.
Easy money. Go ahead,
Yeah, that was
Spence.
tough to
Easy.
watch, because I was believing in Tennessee and Hendon Hooker, so I'll take the egg on my face for that pick because I really thought Tennessee was going to take down the big dog, but no, that was pretty obvious who the big dog is. It's still Georgia. I thought maybe they might be a little down this year coming off the national title, but man, there has been no hangover there outside of that Mizzou game that they almost lost. They've been pretty much flawless this year, and I mean, I know LSU just beat Alabama, but if they do win the SEC West and face Georgia in the championship game, that is going to be a fight there. It won't be a shootout like we saw last Saturday. I think that would be a very a lot low score and more calculated defensive kind of game.
A couple of other scores there. Because this is an equal opportunity program, I am contractually obligated to mention that Kansas is bowl eligible for the first time since 2009. I don't know what happened to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State played
collapsed
2 games in Kansas and got beat by a combined 85-16 by K-State and Kansas. So I don't know what happened there. TCU still undefeated. We'll talk about this later when we look ahead to next weekend's lines. TCU is undefeated. They're number 4 in the country, I think, in the AP poll. They're a touchdown underdog at Texas next week. Explain that one to me.
TCU.
That just tells me they don't believe in TCU, and I don't know if I do either. I mean, they haven't really played anybody this year outside of the Big 12 schools. I mean, the Big 12's all right, but I mean, it ain't the SEC or like the Big 10. I mean, Big 12 is better, but it ain't. My point is it ain't the quality that we expect from a college football playoff team. So yeah, I'm not buying TCU. I wish them well. I mean, obviously would rather them win in Texas, but I can't predict them. I'm going to say Texas knocks them off.
I see a spread like this. It tells me that they're begging to bet on TCU, just like last week. Mabel was all over Tennessee, and I'm going to guess that it's going to be a similar thing this week. I don't think it'll be to the degree that everyone was all over Tennessee. I think it was ended up 87%. Books made a lot of money off that Georgia-Tennessee game this week. Of course, they had to pay it all to Mattress Mac. That's okay too. But I don't. The one I want to talk about is Clemson. Can we stop talking about them now? I mean, they haven't played well all year.
They're done. They're
done. They're in a terrible conference. I mean, they're
Notre Dame.
They're in a terrible conference. They get blown up by Notre Dame. It makes sense, but let's just stop talking about Clemson, because if they make the playoff, then this playoff needs to be completely revamped. I don't care what they do the rest of the way. If they make the playoff needs to be changed.
Jim, let me ask you this, and I'll ask both of you guys. Ultimately, what is your point is out of 1,000 Selection Sunday? Who are the 4 teams in the college football playoff on December the 4th?
I think Georgia's in, barring something strange happening before the SEC championship game. Georgia's in. So, I mean, I think that's a done deal. I think the winner of the Michigan-Ohio State game is in, barring a collapse in the Big Ten championship game. So those 2, in my opinion, are in. Tennessee is in as long as they A, don't lose, and B, LSU doesn't make a run all the way through, win the rest of their games, and then beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. If that were to happen, I think they have to put LSU in. They have to. I mean, I don't see how they're going to leave them out. So that leaves one team. Maybe it's Oregon. Maybe it's Ohio State if Michigan State and Ohio State play a close game, although I don't know if you'd want 2 SEC teams and 2 Big Ten teams, because there's already been all that talk. So I think it's out of about 5 or 6 teams, really. I mean, I think TCU's in the mix, but I think they only get in by default. Weird things would have to happen, I think, for them to get in. And I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think Oregon's in a pretty good spot to get in as long as they keep winning, because their only loss was to Georgia. So if they run the table, then I'd say they're in. I mean, Ohio State's in. I'd say Georgia's in. So then that 4th spot, though, is going to be really tricky. But if Georgia would beat LSU in the SEC championship, unless Tennessee would lose another game, then they'd probably put Tennessee, because I don't see Clemson, even if they win the ACC, I don't think you could justify putting them in, having gotten blown out by Notre Dame. And then if TCU loses this week, like I'm expecting, then you can't put them in. But if they run the table, well, then that'd be the 4: TCU, Oregon, Ohio State, and Georgia. But I'm not really believing in TCU.
I will say this: they should be if they're not. Oregon and Tennessee both should be rooting for LSU to lose at some point in the future. And if LSU plays Georgia in the national champion, the SEC title game, both of those teams need to root for LSU to lose because they could end up. It's kind of like the NCAA basketball tournament, and somebody snipes one. I think it could happen. Because I think LSU is the only 2-loss team in the country with any shot at all in the playoff.
The only other one I would say has a something of a chance would be Alabama if LSU loses out. Alabama gets into the SEC championship and then beats Georgia, but obviously
that's only if Tennessee loses.
Yeah, if Alabama has the win over Georgia, there's going to be a lot of momentum. I wouldn't count them out just yet. But I think Spencer's on the money. I think your power rankings are kind of SEC champ, especially if it's Georgia, Big Ten champ, especially if it's Ohio State, Michigan winner. I actually think third is a one-loss Pac-12 champ. I think they have anything over TCU or even Tennessee. I think Oregon, USC, UCLA, any of those get in, and then I think fourth spot is either Tennessee or an unbeaten TCU, or if something weird happens, maybe a one-loss Michigan, something like that. That would be the fourth choice. But that's your power rankings at this point in college football. At least according to me.
What I'm really interested in seeing is I don't usually care about rankings, but tomorrow night I am going to be interested in the rankings because we kind of touched on this last week. I think that they made LSU as high. I think they put LSU at number 10 for a reason. Not because they wanted to put LSU number 10 or thought LSU was the 10th best team in the country. They thought LSU would get smashed by Alabama, and it would make it easier later on, put Alabama in the playoff to show, hey, when Alabama beat LSU and beat the heck out of Alabama, LSU was ranked 10. And now they're like, oh, hell, what do we do now? LSU won. You got to move them up to I think, be at least 6. It might be 5th or 6th. So the committee kind of hosed themselves a little bit. I think it's hilarious.
And it works in LSU's favor for sure. Hey, you're watching Bayou Bets on bet.NOLA.com. If you're watching on the Bayou Bets YouTube channel, we appreciate you. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button for us. Or if you're watching on Facebook or the NOLA.com YouTube page, we appreciate you as well. Big bucks for this week. Look, I don't have the Caesars glasses. All I need is for the Saints to cover 8.5 tonight, and I got a 5-0 week, baby. I don't care about Jim Derry.
Where's that dunce cap, baby? You still got to put it on, even if you go 5-0. You got to have like 5-0s to go to get back above 500. I just know who the top dog is. I'm sorry, Spence. What did I tell you about your bankroll getting eaten up last week? Come on, man. You can't hang out with Mabel. It'll kill you.
Hey, it was an off week, I'll admit, but we're gonna shake back this week. Had a little bit. Mabel got me with that Bills pick. I'll be in Tennessee, so I gotta say, had a rough one, but it's 1 week, man. Not gonna let 1 week ruin this good run, man. I've been winning every week. Can't let 1 week change that.
If you just want to have fruitcakes and pecan pies, Mabel's a great person to hang out with.
Believe me, I spit that fruitcake out after that Tennessee game. I was like, nope, none of this, nope. That's why I'm fading TCU this week. It's too good to be true. It probably is. I'm not messing with those kind of spreads like that.
I will say this: if the Saints cover the 8.5 tonight to complete my teaser, I'll be plus 90 for the week. That's the best week any of us have had. So we'll just cancel out the first 5 weeks. They don't count.
You're starting to sound like my 24-year-old son. If. But look at this week. Forget about the last 8 weeks. Look at this week. Oh,
hey, I needed a break from being Caesar, so y'all can be Caesar. I needed a break.
Oh, you're going to have a break. A nice one.
I'm starting to sound like Jim Derry of last year. Oh, well, it just happened because I started making crazy bets. I lost your entire balance last year, man.
Somebody sitting up here in the dome. I'm not sure which one. 32-13 with his best bets this year. I'm like, where is it? Oh, that's me. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're having a lucky year. It's all right. It's all right.
Lucky. 32-13 is luck.
I guarantee you that even the sharpest of sharps don't keep up that winning percentage. Yeah, there's some luck in there. I think even you'd admit that.
You keep saying it, but we're halfway through the season now, and I keep waiting for it to fall too. But when you keep on going, you just trust what you're doing, and it's been working this year.
We shall see what happens. We're going to do our Saints-Ravens predictions here in just a little bit. I do want to respond to a couple of comments. That's true, but it is Christmas time, El Rey. So ifs, buts can be candy and nuts. Mark says the Pac-12 is not getting in because Oregon's going to. Well, but if Oregon loses, then the UCLA USC winners in. I think at 12-1. So unless
they're going to want
unless
the Pac-12
everybody
to
ends
get a
up with 2
spot.
losses, I think the Pac-12 will have a spot. He also says if LSU loses, we got Tennessee, TCU in the Sugar Bowl. There would be a lot of orange in New Orleans if that happened, and some purple, but mostly orange.
That'd be a fun Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, I'd go for that. Top 4, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU. I agree with that, although Ohio State and Michigan have to play still. I think Oregon maybe 5, LSU 6, but we'll see. We shall see what happens.
Yeah, it was funny with Michigan on Saturday. My buddy was like, "Oh, Michigan just lost to Rutgers, 17-14." It's like, no way. And then I looked at it like, that's halftime, bro. It ended up final 52-14.
What about an LSU Oregon Sugar Bowl? LSU versus Bo Nix. That would be a lot of fun. They know how to beat
Bo Nix. Yeah, good luck, buddy. There'll be a lot of picks from Bo Nix if that would happen.
I also think listen, if LSU doesn't make the playoff, I'm rooting for the Cotton Bowl against Tulane. Let's let Louisiana invade Dallas for New Year's and see what happens.
Man, I want an LSU Tulane bowl. Yeah, if LSU doesn't make the playoffs, please make LSU Tulane a bowl game because Twitter was begging for it, and hey, I'd be begging for it too if it ended up with a chance at it.
I don't want Tulane to get embarrassed like that, and I'm not just saying that as an alum. I mean, really, does anyone really think that Tulane would beat LSU or even like keep it within like 10?
No, I don't. Mark says again, UCLA and USC.
You ruined everything fun.
Says UCLA, USC not enough strength of schedule. If whoever wins the game between the two and then beats Oregon, that's enough. At 12-1, they'd be in. I'd be shocked if they weren't. But we'll see. I do think the Pac-12 champ gets in as long as they only have 1 loss. Speaking of predictions, going to make our Saints-Ravens predictions here in a few minutes. We'll bring back Zoe on to make hers too. Just a couple of things to get to. Pelicans play tonight in Indianapolis. They tough luck loss in Atlanta. The Pelicans are 5-3 with 3 overtime losses, or they're 5-4 with 3 overtime losses. So if they avoid overtime, they're a pretty good team.
Here's my question. If a team plays basketball in the forest and they fall down and no one watches it, did it really happen? I mean, no one's going to watch that game.
No, that's true. They shouldn't have scheduled that game when they did, but and it's not like they're playing anybody good either. Although Indiana's been a little better than expected, Spencer, but the Pels are probably in pretty good shape tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And it still counts the same, whether one person or 100,000 are watching, it still counts the same. So I think the Pels will be okay tonight. Indiana's a scrappy young team. They've got talent. Tyrese Halliburton, their main guy. So it won't be a gimme, but I do think the Pels pull it off. Coming off that overtime, they're going to be ready for redemption.
They're starting some background music here. Apologize for that. But also tonight, college basketball season starts, which I like college basketball as much as anybody. There are no good games all week long. Like, I don't know why they're not doing that Champions Classic this week with Kentucky and Duke and Kansas and is it North Carolina who plays in it? Like, I don't understand what we're doing here. But everybody, it's like cupcake week for almost everybody. But here are your national championship odds. North Carolina, who right in this very building lost the national championship game about 7 months ago, they're favorites. That surprises me a little bit, Jim, just because they were only an 8 seed before getting hot in the tournament last year. Now, they do bring back 4 starters. Probably true talent was better than an 8 seed, but they may be overrated because of that tournament performance.
Yeah, Man, in all honesty, it's really tough for me to get into college basketball until like January when they start playing conference games. And I will watch some of the bigger ones, but yeah, I mean, I agree that nothing to get excited about this season. I want to see what Tennessee does. I think Tennessee could have a nice season. Coming off a couple of good seasons. UCLA, they've lost a couple of big names. How good are they going to be? But it just for me, it's just hard to really get into it until football gets into the playoffs.
No, I agree. I mean, there will be big competition.
Yeah, it'll be kind of tough. It's just there's so many those like random type games. But I mean, if you know college hoops, though, I know Zoe. I know she's likes basketball. I mean, there might be some values on this board because I see there's no clear cut favorite. That's what I noticed when I looked at. Like, man, there's like nobody that the odds makers are like super high on. Like last year, I'm pretty sure Gonzaga was like below plus 500. Like to where this year it seems like it's really wide open. So I have to study up a bit and see if maybe I could take a futures ticket or two because there might be some value.
Zoe is a basketball expert. I want to bring her on. We're going to talk more about this on Thursday, by the way, and get both men's and women's SEC odds up and everything. But Zoe, right now, do you have a men's team on this list that you've got your eye
on? North Carolina for sure. Houston, I'm intrigued by, to be honest. I don't think Houston has had that great of a run since the days of Phi Slamma Jamma. If UCLA, I just don't trust Pac-12 basketball because Colorado's my alma mater. I wouldn't touch that with a stick, but I'd say North Carolina would be a really good, safe bet to make it to the finals again. Duke, maybe not so much since they have new coach and a lot of Coach K's talent. So that's the only reason why they will be successful in the future. But let's see what can happen in some of these November, December games, because that will set the tone to see how well people will do in the playoffs. And then postseason.
And that'd be my advice is there's no reason to bet these futures now because the odds are not going to change that much between now and New Year's. You might lose. If North Carolina starts 10-0 with a couple of big wins, you might get them at 750 instead of 900. They're not going to knock them down to 3-1 before the tournament. So I don't see any reason to rush to bet these. I like what El Rey said, though. I wonder if that's Mattress Mac's next big bet is the University of Houston. He's not betting on the Texans or the Rockets. I can tell you that much.
Oh, yeah, put $7.5 million on them to win the same amount of money on the Astros. And I think Max going to take his money.
Another promotion. You never know. But we'll talk more college basketball on Thursday. Real quick before we get to our Saints-Ravens predictions as they get gearing up to let people in here at the Caesars Superdome, looking ahead to next weekend in football, first in the college realm, we talked about LSU is at Arkansas. The other big game for the Tigers, they actually need Alabama to win against Ole Miss, and they can clinch the SEC West next weekend. TCU, Texas, that's the interesting one. And then the other one, Georgia, minus 16.5 in Starkville. Could that be sort of a letdown game for the Bulldogs?
I'm going to tell you what I like, Zach. The weather's going to be really cold this weekend. It's probably going to be windy. You might have snow in places. I'd start looking at under now. I'd start looking at weather forecast and go and find out which unders because, Saturday morning you told me before things got really going about Northwestern's situation. It was banked. And so I made some nice money off of that. And I hadn't really looked enough at college and the weather. But I think weather's going to play a big part for the first time all season maybe. Not just with some teams in the Midwest. So you know how it gets up there. But I'll tell you what, this could be one of those weekends where the under is the friend of it. Not usually a smart to play college football.
Yeah, that's an interesting
very.
Oh, yeah, I could see that for sure because, the weather being crazy like that, it could throw some things off. But yeah, as far as value, I said it earlier. I like the Texas over TCU line. I think that's pretty good value. I think Texas is under Sarkisian. They had some tough losses early, but they've really found their groove, it looks like, lately. So I'm thinking that they'll be able to keep that going. And that I think Mississippi State could backdoor cover that Georgia game, because I think Georgia definitely put a lot into that Tennessee game. So that could be one to keep an eye on.
You don't learn, man. You don't learn.
But forget
You
about
just think Georgia's going to beat everybody by just dominate every game?
No.
They can.
Forget a backdoor cover. Think about Mike Leach. Mike Leach, he'll lose 3 games in a row you don't think he should lose. This is the kind of game where Mike Leach's team's got a 28-14 halftime lead, and you're going, what the hell is going on? And then Georgia may come back and win. I think Mississippi State's a live dog.
Not against this defense. I mean, if he can do that to Hendon Hooker, he certainly can do it to this team. I mean, Georgia's on they're now in championship mode. Okay, they're the clear favorites. I mean, they were, in my mind, the clear favorite before this week. But when you beat up on Tennessee like that, I don't think. Look at what LSU did once they kicked it into hyper gear. I mean, they just had that look of a different kind of team. And Stetson Bennett, to me, is so, I don't know. This dude just looks like this little guy. I mean, kind of looked like Drew Brees the other day. I mean, I ain't comparing somebody to Drew Brees, but he really did. He had much control of that offense. And like I said, that defense is on another level right now, and I don't see them going backwards. I think Mississippi State's going to get washed.
All right. I think we'll be on other sides of that one. But let's look ahead to NFL Week 10, which starts Thursday. Of course, we're wrapping up Week 9 here in Superdome in a couple of hours. Falcons-Panthers NFC South game on Thursday night. Then an early game, another Europe game, this one in the first NFL regular season game in Germany. The Bucs opened as just 1-point favorites against Seattle. They're up to 2.5. I talked about how I think that's a tough spot for the Seahawks. Saints are in Pittsburgh, short week, road game, always a tough spot. The Bills don't know the status of Josh Allen. How about the Packers, a 5-point dog at home?
That's something you don't see every week. I mean, first time in the Aaron Rodgers era and first time since 2008 that Green Bay has lost 5 games in a row. And I got to be honest. I mean, I was trying to defend Aaron Rodgers, but he just looked like he didn't want to be there. And I think he's done. I mean, like done. And I don't know that he's going to want to play football anymore after the season. He may have packed it in already. So I'm going to have to go through my analysis again. I don't make picks on Mondays, but I can't see me taking Green Bay there. Again, maybe the weather is super awful, and then I'll have to look at it and see what it's going to be like. But, yeah, that's an interesting play. And, I mean, my gut tells me off the bat that Seattle's going to beat Tampa Bay. But, again, if the line has jumped that much already, I don't know if that's Abel or Sharps. And so it's going to – I mean, I need a couple days to take a look at that. But I personally don't think that just because Tom Brady had that drive, that doesn't mean they're back. And that would scare me that people just start jumping on, oh, they're back, and then jump on the bandwagon and listen to all the media hype. So right now, if you had to make me pick that today, I'd lean towards Seattle winning because I said last week it's time to stop dissing them. They were 2-point dogs going into the Arizona game, and there was at no point were they in danger of losing it. And I know Arizona's not that good, but they're just good, man. I don't know what it is with Geno Smith, and I don't know what it is with that defense ever since they got – You know what? I got to give the dude credit. I've made fun of him a lot over the past few years. But got to give him credit. He's got that team playing because they certainly, other than their wideouts, and Kenneth Walker is the real deal, no question. But that offensive line isn't very good. I thought their defense was atrocious, but they've certainly pulled things together. Can't diss on Seattle anymore.
A couple of things there. Go ahead, Spencer.
Okay, I was going with my value. I know it's early, so it could change it. Right now, my value play out of it is 49ers -7 over the Chargers. The Chargers are super banged up. I mean, they were lucky to pull it off against Atlanta there, and they just don't look good. I mean, Justin Herbert's had a rough start to the year, and he'll likely be without Mike Williams and possibly Keenan Allen again. So to me, a short-handed Chargers team, they're not going to be able to hang.
I like that play, too. I was going to say on Tampa Bay a couple of things. Number one, the fact that Seattle was a 2-point underdog in Arizona, and that was a road game, but now they're only a 2-point underdog to Tampa Bay on a neutral site. Look, we can diss on Tampa Bay. They haven't been playing well. They're better than Arizona. They're much better than Arizona. I don't understand that how that line can be the same. And then the other thing I'll say is, like you said, Jim, Seattle's strength has been running the ball. It's been getting behind Kenneth Walker. The one thing Tampa Bay's been able to do this whole stretch even when they're struggling, is stop the run. I just don't like this matchup for
They didn't
Seattle.
stop it against Baltimore.
Well, I mean, we'll see Lamar
I mean, the
tonight.
Rams don't have a running game, so you have a short memory bias, I think. It's easy to say that. I don't think Tampa Bay's done anything well. I mean, nothing well. Leonard Fournette. What have they done well? I mean, name one thing they've done well since they were 2-0. They've done nothing well.
I think they're going to eventually, like, if Leonard Fournette keeps doing this bad, they're going to go to Rashad White, the rookie.
They should. He looks better.
Yeah, because Brady, he don't hold back. If he feels Fournette's holding him back, they're going to bench him.
Look, Mike Evans is still – something's wrong with Mike Evans. He seems like he's always hurt. He got his wrist hit yesterday, and he was, like, holding his arm. And I'm like, that dude was fragile. I don't know.
Yeah, Julio is extremely fragile.
Julio is a shadow of his former self. And then Gotti was hurt all the time, too. So what are you going to count? What if Gotti knows?
And rookie tight end's done really well to Cade Otton. So it just seems like Brady, and that's why I just can't write him off. As much as I'd love to just do it, I just can't write him off because it just seems like Brady always finds somebody to step up.
Yeah, that is true. I don't think you can write him off either. We'll see what happens Sunday morning and the rest of NFL Week 10. But for right now, it is time to wrap up Week 9. Jim and I are here at the Caesars Superdome, a couple of hours away from Saints and Ravens. You're watching Bayou Bets on bet.NOLA.com and the Bayou Bets YouTube page. Hit that like button, subscribe button, share button for us. Let people know what we're doing here. And with that said, I think it's prediction time for Saints Raiders. Zoe Collins-Rath, our producer, give us your take and your final score. Did I say Raiders? Ravens.
Good Lord, I thought
24-0.
It's 24-0. I got the under too.
Okay, maybe not 24-0, but maybe like 28-25 Saints.
You think very carefully about one of those numbers.
There's a reason why I'm a journalist. I can't do math very well. I can do this math, no problem.
I mean, I could see, if they went for 2, if it's 28-23, they go for 2 to cut it to a field goal.
Yeah. So 28-25 Saints. Is that with more confidence for you?
All right, 28-25. Spencer the Guru, your final score on tonight's game.
Oh man, I've been thinking a while about it. I still don't feel confident, but oh man, I have to be the downer because I had said it all week. I feel like it'll be closer than I was thinking, but I can't quite swing it enough, I don't think, to make it to where the Saints. Well, I'll have to. I hate to say it. It's the Ravens 26, Saints 24.
All right, 26-24, another close game. I think it'll be close too. Jim, I'm going to let you wrap it up. But I was going to say 23-20 Saints earlier in the week, but I do like the under. I'm going to go with the theme of the week: Saints 20, Ravens 17. Give me a 6-pack of 20-17s.
Oh, you're so funny. I mean, now you really got to call a score around me and find out what's going on. All right, Spencer and I are super close, so I don't know if that's good or bad. Here's my prediction on what happens tonight. The Saints are leading into the fourth quarter 24-17. Score a touchdown to tie it up. Dalton goes 3 and out with 3 incomplete passes. Get it back, and guess what? Justin Tucker doesn't forget. The first ever missed extra point of his career came against the Saints in a 24-23 loss in 2018, and I guarantee you he's been thinking about that. He probably thinks about that during dinner with his wife. Every Saturday night, whatever it goes, it's been bothering him for long, and he's going to kick the game-winning field goal, a 54-yarder. I'll make it specific. 54-yard field goal by Justin Tucker as time expires. Baltimore wins 27-24. But that being said, I wouldn't bet this game with Zach's money either way. I wouldn't touch the under or the over. I wouldn't.
You're damn right you wouldn't.
Well, hold
on.
I feel
like me and Jim are on like the exact same wavelength on this, and normally we differ. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, I know the Who Dat's over wrong.
I like that, though. We've got 2 Ravens picks, 2 Saints picks. I think we had 3 overs. I was the only under the 46.5. It's Monday Night Football tonight at 7:15 on ESPN. Check us out on Twitter at BetNola, on Instagram, and on TikTok at Bayou Bets. Jerry says Saints win 27-20. We've got just a couple minutes left. Give your
like your
predictions
version,
if you're in
Jerry.
the comments. And listen, the Saints win. 3-way tie for first place with Tampa Bay and Atlanta, and they've got a couple of winnable games coming up with the Steelers and the Rams.
So tomorrow, a very special, I don't know that we've ever done a Tuesday Attitude, but we're going to have one tomorrow morning. Derry's Dime. I hope it's Derry upper, not Derry downer tomorrow, but it won't be a long show. It'll be just probably a half an hour show, but we will cap the game, and I will give you my thoughts tomorrow on that.
All right, for Jim Derry and Spencer the Guru and our producer Zoe, I'm Zach Ewing. This has been Bayou Bets. Enjoy the game, everybody. Check us out 4 o'clock on Thursday. Jim's got Datitude tomorrow morning. We will have coverage all week for you. Ravens -1.5 against the Saints starting in a couple of hours. Have a good one.